Hey guys. So this past weekend I got my motorbike fixed, my scooter, and I noticed that when I when I twist my wrist to hit the gas, I tend to like tighten up like this, my shoulders and neck, um, and yeah, that's not good, obviously. So what I'm doing now is when I'm at a red light and it's about to turn green, it's going in here in Vietnam. It counts down, so four, three, two, one. I kind of ask myself, okay, don't tighten up. How can I do this easier? So instead of going like that, I just use my wrists, relax my shoulders, relax my neck. You know, much easier. And this is I think this is pretty powerful. Taking that pause to to recognize where you have habits that are not constructive, where you have habits where you're using more energy than you need to, and taking the time to pause and turn in a new direction. Start building a more efficient, effective habit that's more conducive to your well-being. Um, there's this book called A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor and a psychiatrist, and he developed a practice to help his fellow inmates in during the Holocaust to get through the Holocaust psychologically. And he had this very powerful idea in the book, and I highly recommend you to read this book, A Man's Search for Meaning. Basically, that true freedom is the ability to choose a new response to any stimuli, to choose a stimuli. So the space between stimulus and response, that's where true freedom lies. Because you can't control the stimulus, the stimuli coming to you from the outside world, but you can choose a new way to respond to that stimuli, and that ability to choose, that is freedom. That is powerful. So I mean, this may sound like a really simple thing. I'm just instead of going like that, I'm going like this. But the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And I spend a lot of time. I do this a lot. Maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 times a day. Who knows? But if I'm doing this, it's going to make it more likely that when I'm at a computer or my phone rings, I'm gonna go like that. It's that you're building that habit of responding to any stimuli by going like that. So every time that I choose to respond to the green light, instead of going like this, just going like that, it's going to make it less likely that I'm going to go like that in any other situations. And the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. So if we're building in this practice of choosing to pause, and instead of doing something that is tense, instead of tensing up to accomplish a goal, we ease into it to accomplish the same goal. So if we're going after some means, or we're going after some end, instead of choosing an end, or instead of choosing a means to that end that damages us or makes it harder for us to pursue other ends, we're going to choose a means to that end that is more conducive to our well-being, is easier, and allows us to save our energy and resources, for all the other things we want to do in life. And I think this is especially powerful for people that work on their computers or work at desks, and they spend a lot of times in compromised positions, like this, slouching, overarching, this sort of thing. If you can, practice a habit of maintaining good posture and moving, not getting too stiff, and not typing with too much tension, doing anything with too much tension. If we can do these daily things with more ease, it's gonna have a powerful effect on our overall posture and movement and overall coordination of our bodies. And you might think that, well, if I spend an hour a day at the gym, that's not, I don't need to do this. But look, if you're spending an hour a day at the gym, you're probably spending more than an hour at the day in a car if you're commuting, at your computer, at your desk, sitting down, laying down in bed. What has a bigger effect? Something that you do an hour a day, or something that you do 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day? Probably the thing that you're doing, for the larger portion of the day. So if you can build habits for those things, that we're not, usually it's unconscious how we're doing these things, how we're using our bodies while we're doing these things. If we can bring awareness to that and recognize where we have poor habits of using ourselves, choose to pause and choose to build a new habit, that can be pretty powerful. So like I said, this thing, it may seem like a simple thing, but when I choose to, instead of doing this, to ease into that, two things are happening. Number one, it feels a lot better in the moment. It might take a little bit of more mental effort in the beginning when I'm establishing this new habit to not go like this, and instead to ease into it. But it feels a lot better. And as I'm doing this, I'm ingraining the habit of the next time that I'm in that situation and I get that stimulus, I'm going to choose a healthier response. So number one, it feels good in the moment, and number two, I'm building a habit of healthy responses to stimuli, which can have pretty profound effects throughout your life. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and give it a like. Leave a comment. That will let the Facebook algorithm know. The Facebook algorithm know that you're into this kind of stuff, and it'll make it more likely that you will see this video again. So if that's a habit you want to create, please do that. Thank you. Hey, thanks for sticking through on the video. I have one quick announcement. I'm actually putting the finishing touches on an online course about posture and movement for people that work on their computers. And I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear what you want to see included in the course. And the first 100 people that fill out my one-question survey are going to get free access to the course when we launch. So, thanks. Just click the link in the description below to fill out the survey.